Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of my journey across the Indian Ocean. I've come a long way from Thailand so far, with a pit stop in the Maldives, but still have a long way to go. This week's an eventful one. Seawater finds its way first into my freshwater drinking tank, and then into my engine room. And I mean a lot of seawater. Come see if Scout can make it through this one. But first, take a second to hit that like and subscribe buttons.
Morning of day 4, sailing under full main, close hauled. It's not a point of sale Scout spends a lot of time at, but it's going just fine. Did a load of laundry this morning. Altogether a civilized day. So a little less than an hour to sundown. The wind and the seas have been building. It's supposed to get a little heavier tonight. You know, the forecasts are varied. I'm probably just fine with the main up. Certainly would be fine with a reef main. I'm just gonna go ahead and take it down. With just me, it's not too bad right now. I'm gonna point it into the wind, throw an engine on, point it into the wind, just drop the main, sail tonight into the jib. Hopefully that'll help with rest, and it'll cost me a few miles, but you know what? It's okay. Main down, jib back up, engine off. Overly conservative, probably, but I'd way rather be up on deck changing the mainsail on my terms than on the weather's terms. I am 5 full days in, starting day 6. Gone just over 600 miles, so averaging a scant 120 miles a day. Wind has gone from non-existent to now the last couple of days being on the beam. Decided I'm going to take you through my food today, so let you show what my eating habits are on a random day I picked. Starting off here for breakfast, I have some peach cobbler that I just whipped up this morning from frozen peaches. Flour, butter, sugar, little yogurt on top. You make do with what you got. Lunch, big bowl of pasta, olive oil, garlic, salt, pepper, red pepper flakes, pesto, and lots of Parmesan cheese. I should also mention I constantly have my water bottle next to me, so I'm drinking about 5 liters of water a day, which I think is plenty to keep me hydrated out here. I was worried I might not be getting enough vegetables, so I got some frozen peas and frozen corn here for dinner. Not sure about their nutritional content, but it's making me feel better mentally anyway. I'm eating vegetables. So the sail to the Maldives from Thailand was rough. Weather was rough. Little stuff here and there was going on with the boat. I was tired, I was sick. Just sort of in survival mode. Here, halfway through the sail from Maldives to Djibouti, less has been going on. Less sail changes. The weather has been more predictable. The sea has been calmer, but it's still, I'm tired. I'm not getting good sleep. I'm up lots at night, napping here and there. And yet, I struggle a little bit with, like, I don't do much. And that's hard for me. Like, well, shouldn't I be doing more? There's books I want to be reading and little boat projects I could be tackling that I just don't have the motivation to do, and I kind of beat myself up over that. Because the lesson is just to be content with where you are, what you're doing, what you're capable of in the moment. And when you have an incredibly healthy meal like frozen peas and corn, feel completely guilt-free in following it up with some Oreos. So I'm about 900 miles out of the Maldives, about 1,000 miles to go to Djibouti. I decided to make water today for the first time in the trip. Fired right up, was producing as expected, and then partway through I noticed my tank was filling up faster than it should. So I went down and investigated, and sure enough the throughput rate was too high and the pressure was too low, which meant it was dumping salt water into my tank. Hooray for having, I have two freshwater tanks on the boat, and enough fresh water in the tank that didn't get contaminated to get me to Djibouti. I do that purposefully. I never want to get into a situation where I'm empty or almost out of water and then I can't get there if my water maker doesn't work. So I have enough water to get to Djibouti, but I don't have a functioning water maker right now, which is a drag, the adventure for the day. Otherwise, it's lovely out here. Motoring along, the wind has died. I think that I have one of the big membranes that fundamentally removes the salt from the water has failed, and therefore I cannot build up pressure and there's too much water flow coming through. To test that, I'm going to take apart these guys, and just with the boost pump, there shouldn't be any water coming through there. The boost pump shouldn't give enough pressure to do that, and if one of these two is spitting water out, that's my failed membrane, and I should be able to plumb the system using only one. It's obviously just flowing straight out of the top one. So what I've done is plugged the product, the clean water output of the membrane that is compromised, or so I think, and left the other one open. One thing I will say is, you know what the plug that I created is pretty, and you know what it doesn't need to be? Pretty. I'm gonna go to phase 2 of the test, which is to see if I can get the system up to pressure. Feel like maybe I should have adult supervision for this, but you know, I'm alone in the ocean. All right, yay, talking to you out here because it's loud in there now. I got the water maker up to pressure. The water is clean, tested it. So I have fresh water running into my tank. Now I have residual impacts for that. One, I had salt water in that tank, close to full of salt water. I emptied that yesterday, but there's still gonna be dregs. So what I'm doing is I'm pumping fresh water into there, and then I'm gonna empty it again, and then I'll test the end-to-end water, so what comes out of that tank, through an additional filter I have, and then I'll test the particulates in it and see if it's good to go. If it's not, I'll give it another flush. My throughput now is about half of what it was before, which makes sense. I have one membrane in the system as opposed to two, but that's okay. Yay, got it figured out. Gonna need a new part, but could be a lot worse. Okay, so wow, the water's going out faster than it's coming in. I've given my shore support, my coordinates and heading. I've got my spare bilge pump ready to go. I'm going to work on detaching the coupler to the transmission, which will give me room to access what's happening. Either I can pull the shaft through or put a plug in, push the shaft out. So stay tuned. I'm gonna stop filming, but never a dull moment. Taking the coupler off here. So now what I have room to do is I'm going to pull this guy out and see if I can pull the shaft out or put a plug in. So it's going to get interesting when I pull this guy out. right, so I learned a few things there. One, the shaft is still accessible from inside the boat, which is good. Two, I cannot pull it with my just with my hands, so I'm gonna try to use a tool that I think may work. And three, when I pull the rubber shaft seal off, a lot of water comes in. Eventful night. The shaft, propeller shaft, slid backwards out of the shaft coupler that then goes into the transmission. Not what you want to have happen. I worked on it. The shaft and the propeller are still there because they can't get past the rudder. Otherwise, they just would have slid all the way out, been at the bottom of the ocean. I'm not able to get the leverage to pull up the shaft back up through, and plus it's got to go through the shaft seal, the dripless shaft seal, and there's just not a lot of play in there between where it comes into the hull, where it goes through the dripless shaft seal, then where it attaches to the coupler. It's just not possible for that to be a pull operation. So I'm gonna get in the water and push it through the shaft seal. That's what's on tap. Fortunately, the forces are really light. I do not have a big swell out here. I do not have big wind. The sails are down, the motor's off. I'm just drifting here. You can see the sun coming up behind me. I'm gonna wait for a bit more light. I want light in the water when I'm in there, so I'm gonna have to wait a little bit longer. Jumping off the boat in the middle of the ocean while single-handing requires a bit of a pep talk. But conditions are calm, I've got a line attached to the boat in hand, and there don't appear to be any predators lurking. The situation with the propeller is what I expected to find. All right, in and out of the water. The prop, I was able to push it back up and in through the shaft seal really easily. And then initially I could feel it just clunk on the coupler to the transmission, and then it went in there. So I hopped out of the water to see what was going on in the engine room, and sure enough, it's in and in the coupler. I'm calling this a win for right now. I no longer have a leaking boat. It's been a heck of a last 6 hours for me. I'm calling it a victory. So what on earth just happened there? It was the middle of the night, 3 a.m. The engine sounded just a little bit different to me. I thought, oh, maybe, the fuel filter's getting dirty, or maybe we got something stuck on the prop. Threw the engine in reverse to see, sometimes you got to shake off seaweed or something from the prop, a net, I don't know. Put it back in gear, nothing. Revved it up, motor's running fine, or revving fine, no forward momentum. Uh-oh. Problem with the transmission. Look in the engine room, the shaft is gone. Where the shaft should be, water is gushing in. Uh-oh. Go down, plug that with a rag. The bilge pump is keeping up. Start to investigate. And yeah, that's it. That's what happened. The key is, it's not lined up though. There's a groove in both the shaft and the coupler where a little key goes. And I did not get that lined up, and really that's a two-person job. I need somebody in the water slowly spinning the prop, and somebody in the engine room. I will not be able to run that motor. The key, without the key, if I put that kind of force on it, I have every expectation it would slip out. It's late afternoon, had a good long nap. So you can imagine I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I didn't feel like I was in danger, but there was a moment. There was more water coming in than the bilge pump could handle. So there was a moment there where the water in the engine room was rising faster than the bilge could expel it. And that's the famous old, the difference between leaking and sinking is water coming in faster than you can get it out. Had my emergency second bilge pump ready to go and put that on, but there was a moment in there where I'm sitting in ankle deep water in the engine room and sort of pondering, okay, what's my next move if the water doesn't start to go down here? But it did.
reflections on the day, I guess, are two things. One, nothing is guaranteed. I know that, but it's a good reminder. You get into like projection mode, I guess is what I would call it, where it's like, well, okay, I'm gonna be here in 7 days and then there for so long, and I'll do this and that, and today's just a good reminder of like, no, nothing's guaranteed. You don't know how things are gonna go, which leads me to the second reflection, being grateful for what you have, being grateful for the things that you might take for granted. The obvious, you know, a boat that's not leaking, things that are working, but just everything, for the moments you have, the time you have. And I don't say that in sort of some sort of existential, life-threatening type, you know, post-trauma comment. The worst had come to pass. Others knew my location. There were ships close by. The weather was calm. I was not scared for my safety. And, you know, by and large, not really scared for the boat's safety either, but there's just one little moment in there. And had been sailing along at 3 knots in 6 knots of wind. And that's been okay for me to date. Not taking anything for granted and being grateful for what I've got. And then tomorrow will be a new day. We'll see how that one goes.